Setting up my live on YouTube. Going to be streaming from Zoom to YouTube today. Okay, here we go. Looks like ready. Okay, just want to make sure I can see the chat, just in case there's anyone that comes on and wants to talk. All right. So, hello, my name is Cynthia, and today I'm going to be talking to you about something a little bit crazy, maybe if you haven't heard about it before, if you haven't done it before. Um, the title of this is going to be Your Body Will Tell You the Answers. And it's really about how to get information from source into your body so that you can find the answers for yourself. My name is Cynthia, and today we're going to talk all about my story on how I actually learned how to do this for myself, totally accidentally, not on purpose, out of the blue. And I'm going to give you a little bit of information on how you can do it for yourself. So I am an intuitive healer, and I like to combine science and the more woo-woo aspect together to help people heal their bodies naturally, because I really truly believe that it takes both. I don't really think you can do just physical healing on its own without doing any energetic or emotional healing as well. I think it really takes a combination of both in order to heal our bodies, because we have a lot of stuck energy that creates havoc in our system. Our body is an electrical system, basically, and the impulses that move throughout our body tend to get blocked in places where we have energetic blocks stored from trauma or from physical injury or bad nutrition, all sorts of reasons that our electrical system can get sort of clogged up and energy can get blocked. So there's a couple different ways to deal with it. And like I said, I like to combine the physical aspect with the energetic aspect for whole body healing. Let's see. Oh, if you're watching live, just say hello. And if you're watching on the replay, just hashtag Gaia's Medicine so that I know that you came in and saw the video. And okay, so I'm just going to start really quickly by telling you my story. Hopefully, it'll be a short story. I tend to talk a lot, so I'll try to make it brief. Basically, this is probably back in 2000. It was between 2014 2015 timeframe, and I was having a really rough time in life in general. I was really struggling. Um, I had just come from a big healing in 2011, end of 2011, beginning of 2012. I healed myself from severe food allergies, and I was great for a handful of years. And then, like I said, 2014, 2015 timeframe, things started kind of going wonky again, and I wasn't quite sure what was wrong. And I was just having like some more emotional issues coming up that I think were tied to menopause for me, because I went into menopause really, really early. I was 40 basically when I went into menopause. Sorry, maybe that's too much information, but but it's relevant. So I was just having a really hard time in life, and I started meditating every single day. And I meditated every day for anywhere between a half hour and an hour a day. And I did this almost every day for about 2 years. And during that time, I processed a lot of emotions. I let a lot of things go. I was constantly asking the universe to help me heal. I was constantly asking the universe, like, why are these things happening? How can I fix them? I want to feel better. And so I was really strongly pulling desire through my body. And I remember I had this little bench that I used to sit on. So you kind of be like sitting on your knees, but not like fully collapsed, so that your knees were a little bit it was a little bit gentler on them, basically. So I would sit on my meditation bench, and on the floor in my bedroom, I would turn the lights down and I would just sit there, and I would ask my question before meditation, and then during meditation, I would try to have no question in mind, just no, try to be completely blank and just really connect to my inner being or source or whatever you want to call it. I called it my inner. And that's what I tried to do. And like I said, after about 2 years, there was a night that all of a sudden something like broke loose and my body started moving in a spiral pattern. So my body was just going like this. So I'll show you what it looks like. I'll make my body do it so you can see it. But I was just sitting there very still meditating. And then all of a sudden my body started doing this. And I was just going in a circle and I was like, oh my God, what is this? Oh my God, what is happening? Why is my body moving like this? I don't understand. And then I would stop it. And then as soon as I would let go, it would start up again. It would just do this. And it started getting really, really big. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening? I'm like stuck in this vortex. I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. And it was scary. And again, I would stop it. And then as soon as I would let go, it would start up again. And I got to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I don't understand what this is. But when I started asking myself questions or my inner being questions, like, what is this? I don't understand. And then it would change. It would go from this spiral pattern, which was, I found out sort of the neutral for me, to a front back pattern, which for me was yes. And then it would go to a side to side pattern, which for me was no. And it took me about, I would say probably 3 to 4 days to figure out what was happening and that I could feel the change in my body based on what I was thinking about. If I was thinking about something really negative, I would go side to side. So that my no was also my negative. So anything bad, anything I didn't want, anything that I was like, why is this? I hate it, make it stop. Can't we change this? I would get this negative. I would get this side to side for the negative or for the no. And then when I would think of something positive and uplifting and happy, I would move forward and backward. And I finally figured out that this is yes and no in my body. And that this spiral feeling that I had was my neutral. Now, it's a little bit different for me now because I think when that happened, and this is the closest thing I can attribute it to, and I don't know because I haven't really talked to many people about this. It's not something like I looked it up on the internet trying to figure out what was happening, and I couldn't find anybody talking about it on the internet. But since then, because it's been a long time, I've done some research, and the closest thing I can attribute it to is what people say it feels like when Kundalini energy enters your body. So it was really, really strong for a couple of weeks, and it was basically just flowing through me like crazy, clearing stuff out, and stuff was blowing up left and right. And finally it started to calm down. And so my body, I still feel this energy, but my body doesn't move anymore. I like outwardly, you can't see it if you're looking at me. Now my body, I can just feel it on the inside. If I ask a yes or no question, my body actually does move noticeably, but it's very small. But you have to be like, if you're looking for it, you can see it. If you're watching me, you can see my body move back and forth for yes or side to side for no. So this is really how I figured out how to ask questions, yes or no questions of my body and get an answer. So before that, I had no idea that I could do this. I didn't think, oh, I'm psychic. I didn't know anything about the sway technique. I didn't know how to use a pendulum. I didn't know anything about that. At this point, the only thing I knew was that I was an empath and that I was really attuned to other people's energy and that I could feel other people's emotions. When somebody next to me was really upset or very anxious, I would feel really upset and really anxious. And I thought that was normal. I thought everybody felt like that. I thought, well, of course, there's an upset and anxious person in the room. You're going to be upset and anxious too. Like, isn't that just how it goes? And then I realized that that wasn't everyone's experience and that wasn't necessarily normal and that that was a sign of an empath. And so I started reading about empaths and what they are and how they work and how their body works and how the energy works. And this was about the same time when this happened, when I had just started reading gosh, Christine, I can't even remember the name of the book's author, but I started reading a really cool book about empaths and energy vampires and basically how to protect your energy because that's what they did back then. Like that's how I learned it was to shield yourself. I don't do that now, but that's what I learned back then. And so I had just really read that book and learned that when I started to feel this energy. And so it was a whole new world that opened up to me that I didn't know anything about, and I didn't have anyone to guide me. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't know anyone who knew anything about this. So it was kind of scary. Um, but like I said, it took me 3 or 4 days and I finally figured it out like, oh, I can actually tell what's happening in my body based on how my body is moving. And I knew that it was a positive or a negative. And then I realized, oh, I can ask yes or no questions. So I just started calibrating it. I started saying, my name is Cynthia. And then I would move forward and backward. And then I started saying, my name is Susie. And then I would move side to side. Or I would say, I have brown hair and I would move forward and backward. Or I would say, I have blue eyes and then I would move side to side. So I just started calibrating it with things that I knew were true and to try and make sure that the what I was feeling in my body was a true yes or a no. And so the more I practiced, I started asking myself like silly questions like, would my body rather have a banana for breakfast or a watermelon? And then I would just think watermelon and I would get a yes. And then I would think banana. And sometimes I would also get a yes because both of those are healthy. But if I said like, I'm going to have French fries for breakfast, I would get a no. So I just started calibrating it and using it for really silly things. And over the years, I just practiced over and over and over again until I got to the point where I really trusted it because I knew exactly what was going on in my body and I knew my energy and I could feel what a yes was and what a no was. And then I started using it to ask more important questions for myself and for others, but the others came much later. I've been a practicing psychic for the last, I think, 3.5 years now. Um, but in the beginning, I did free readings, a lot of them, because I wasn't 100% certain of my skills. I wanted to make sure I was, giving the right answers. I wanted to be super confident. So I did a lot of free readings in the beginning. And that's how I got to where I'm at today, where I practice all the time. I go to psychic fairs and I do readings, 8 or 9 in a day. Um, and I do readings for people who seek me out online. So it really took these years and years and years of practice. Like, so that was 2014, 2015 timeframe. We're now in 2024. So almost 10 years it took for me to go from I just know that I'm an empath to okay, now I'm actually a psychic and I can feel other people's energy in my body and I can find their blocks to healing. That's a big jump, but 10 years time is a long time to make that change. So let me just ask a question of you, anyone who pops on here to watch the replay. Have you ever felt your body move while you're meditating? Because I would love to know if there are other people out there who have experienced this, or if it's just me and I'm a little crazy. I'm just kidding. I know I'm not crazy now. But back then I really did think like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening. There's something weird happening in my body. Like I remember finishing my meditation and getting up and like going out into the living room and being like, husband, I don't know what just happened, but I think I might be possessed. And I don't know what he thought. He probably thought I was crazy, but it was a very funny evening for both of us because I was like, I don't know what's happening. There's just some weird stuff going on in my body. So anyway, if you have a story to tell, I would love to hear about it. Just put it in the comments. I want to know. Okay. So once I started to feel this, like I said, I started to do some investigation and I found out about all these techniques that people have been using to get to yes or no answers throughout history. So I started reading about the body code and the emotion code, and they use something called muscle testing, which a lot of naturopaths use. It's pretty common nowadays. Basically, your body will have a very strong response for a positive truthful answer, and your body will have a weak response for a lie or negative answer. So if you hold something in your hand and you're asking, is this good for me? You'll be able to tell by the way your body reacts. So the way they did it in emotion code and body code, the practitioners, is basically you hold one arm out and then someone takes two fingers and they press down on your wrist. And if they get a strong response, then that's a positive. And then if your hand goes down, that's a negative. That's a weak response and that's a negative. So that's muscle testing. And like I said, naturopaths use it a lot. It's pretty common way to do it. Then there's also the sway technique, which I learned about after this. And that's basically where you do the same thing that I was talking about, but from a standing position. So you can ask yourself a yes or no question, or you can say, my name is Cynthia. And if your name's not Cynthia, you'll go backwards. And if your name is Cynthia, you'll move forward. Now that's the way it works for me. And I would say the majority of people that I've talked to about how this works now, that's the way it works for them. But everybody's body is different. Everybody's energy is different. So it could actually be a different movement for your body. So this is something that you have to calibrate. But in general, if you're standing up and you say something in the positive or truthful, or you're asking a yes question and you're expecting a yes response because you're calibrating, you're going to move forward. And in general, for a negative response, you're going to move back. And it's the slightest sway, unless it's a really strong answer. So there are times when I ask a question and I get a slight movement. And then there are times I ask a question and they get a really big movement. And I'm like, okay, that was like a hell no versus just a no, or a hell yes versus just a yes. So you can actually feel the difference in the charge and the energy between a big no and a little no, or a big yes and a big yes, based on how much your body's moving. So I think that's really cool. So that's the sway technique that I've seen people teach and demonstrate. And then, like I said, people also use pendulums. I don't actually have one here with me to show you, but it's basically like a crystal or a ball of some sort at the bottom of a chain or a string, and you hold it up. And if you hold your hand as still as you can, eventually it'll start circling in the neutral. And then when you ask a positive question, it'll go one way. And if you ask a negative question, it'll go the other way. So, or it'll go to the right, it'll circle to the right for yes, and to the left for no. But again, it's based on your energy and you actually have to calibrate it. So it'll be however it is for you. And so use those questions that you know the answers to calibrate it. And then now what my body looks like when I do it in a seated position in meditation is it's really just like my neck up that moves now. The rest of my body doesn't tend to move anymore, partially because the way I meditate now is generally from like a seated position with my legs crisscrossed. And so my body doesn't have quite as much room to play. I'm usually leaning up against something because it's more comfortable for me now. So now when I do it, it's just my head that moves. So like this is a yes and this is a no. And sometimes it's even smaller than that. And it really depends on a couple of different things, actually, like the strength. If I'm doing it in the same session and I get a strong versus a not so strong, then I know that's the difference in a hell yes versus a yes. But if it's really strong today and it's not strong tomorrow, just in general, that's a problem with my body system. So when you are not well hydrated, you won't get as strong of a response because the electrons that are firing and all the things that are going on inside your body don't happen as fast. So that's why you'll see psychics drink a lot of water, because they want to be really well hydrated so that they can do the work that they need to do and they can get a really good fast response. Just like if you're to eat really grounding foods like chocolate, heavy potatoes, things like that, you're going to slow your body down. Things are not going to move as fast, and therefore you won't get your answers as fast, or they won't be as strong. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. If you're really wanting to practice this and test it out in your body, then definitely like make sure you're well hydrated and eat light foods on the days that you're going to do readings. I have a very specific routine that I use to prepare when I do psychic fairs, because I know I'm going to be doing a lot of readings for a lot of different people that day. I get up, I eat a nice light breakfast, fruit, some tea. I do my energy routine where I basically clear all of my stuff out so that I'm not confusing it with anybody else's. And I push my aura out as far as I can so that I have plenty of space for myself because when I do psychic fairs, there's a lot going on in those places. There's like energy flying everywhere and it can be very chaotic. So I like to have a lot of space for myself. So those are just some things to think about when you're starting to practice this. It's really cool. It's the best way in the world to lead yourself through anything because being able to ask yourself a yes or no answer and get the real, true, honest to goodness answer that is best from your higher being's perspective is really important because your higher being is never going to lead you astray. It's always going to lead you down the best path, the right path, the path that's going to make you the happiest. It's not going to lead you down the bad one. And I will just give you a small caveat that in the beginning, when you're just learning how to do this, don't ask yourself crazy questions like, should I marry Bob? And here's why. Because when you first start, it's really easy to influence the answer based on how much you care about it. So when I do readings for other people, I am detached from the answer. I don't have to worry about what the answer means for me or my client, really, because if I do, then that means I'll be influencing the answer. And so the only way for me not to influence the answer is to be completely detached from what it is. So it's much easier for me to do this for other people than it is for me to do it for myself. And I think that's true of any psychic. I'm pretty sure that's just how it goes. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that you really, really care about the answer. And when you really, really care about the answer, you get all twisted up in your mind about it because you might get a yes and then you'll get sort of a no and then it'll go back and forth and you'll be like, oh my God, I don't even know what's happening. Why can't I get a clear answer? I'm a psychic. I'm a good one. Why can't I get a clear answer? It's just because you care so much about the answer that it's really hard and things are twisted up in your mind about it because there's so many different arguments you have for or against a particular thing that things just get twisted up. So even psychics have psychics because it's easier to have somebody else read for you than it is to read for yourself. I wish I could read as clearly for myself as I do for everyone else. And certainly I read for myself every day and I clear for myself every day and I journal every day. So it gets better and better and better for myself as I go. So I think I just keep practicing because I want to be really good for myself and my clients. So it's not just all about my clients. Like I actually practice it daily for myself as well so that I can be good for me and for them. So let me just ask another question. Has anyone ever done this before? Have you ever heard of like the muscle testing or the sway technique or there was one other that I wanted to mention. I can't remember. It'll come back to me if I do. But yeah, I would love to know if you've ever experienced any of those and how they work for you. Oh, I know what I wanted to mention. The Letting Go book by David R. Hawkins. He is no longer alive, unfortunately, but he wrote some of the most amazing books. And he wrote a book called Letting Go that completely changed my life. And in there, he talks a lot about muscle testing and the scientific testing that he did to verify that muscle testing is a real thing and actually works. And then he used muscle testing to create this scale of emotions that basically says at the vibration 200 is courage. And that's the point on the scale between negative emotions and positive emotions. So underneath courage are things like anger and apathy and shame and guilt and fear and even pride is down there. Courage is 200. And then above that is like acceptance, I think maybe willingness, but really good things like joy and bliss and all those things, right? So he used muscle testing to create this chart. So he would sit with a word and ask, what does this word vibrate at? What does this feeling vibrate at? And he would do trials where he would test and do it so many times so that he would know, okay, like this is the real answer. And then he made this chart and it's amazing. And the book Letting Go talks about each emotion on that scale and how we live differently when we're in a particular emotion. My favorite part of the whole book is where he talks about like a car accident between two people. And he goes through the scenario from each of the different vibrations, each emotion, and what the scenario would look like if you were in shame, what the scenario would look like if you were in fear, what it would look like if you were encouraged, what it would look like if you were in bliss. And it's amazing to see the different way people behave based on what vibration they're in. So that's another really cool thing that used muscle testing to get like real world answers. And I just love how he combined the physical and the energetic, or the science and the woo, because I really love to have both. Like I really try to have a lot of balance in my life. I really try to be well-rounded and have both, because everything I've done in life, I've always needed more balance. Anytime I get too far into the masculine, then I know I need feminine because things stop working. Anytime I get too far into the feminine, I know I need more masculine because things stop working. Like it really does require a good balance, or at least like some sort of flow where you're kind of going back and forth over the middle. So obviously you're never going to just stay in balance all the time forever, but you can go back and forth in a smaller area versus going widely back and forth like this, because that's really hard on your nervous system. Okay, so I think that was all I want to talk about today, but I do have my cards with me. And so I'm going to do a card pull for whoever comes and watches this on the replay. So when I do oracle cards, it's a little bit different than what I do when I do an intuitive health reading. When I do intuitive health readings, I actually connect to a person's energy and I don't use cards. I basically just feel their energy and tell them which blocks I'm feeling. We find the blocks and then I clear them. So I have methods that I use for pulling out energetic blocks and basically filling in the holes with really beautiful different colors of light and then sealing it over. And so that's sort of the way we do it there. And then I also do like a health coaching piece of it where we talk about like the physical things, like what you should eat, what kind of food you should avoid, what kind of toxins you need to be thinking about, what things might be contributing to your toxin load. Like I had one woman who came to me who had been dyeing her hair every 6 weeks for years and years and years. And she came to me and said she wanted a reading. And before I saw her picture, before I got on Zoom with her, hair dye just popped in. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Hair dye. I'll remember that and ask her, because she had scheduled it a couple of days in advance. And so I wrote it down so that I wouldn't forget, because I'm forgetful. And when we got on Zoom, I said, so I had a hit that came in for you after you scheduled your session, and it was about hair dye. And I think that you probably have a lot of toxins based on that. And she goes, oh my God, I have gotten my hair dyed every 6 weeks or whatever it is, regularly, whatever the most regular you would do, I think 6 weeks, for years and years and years. And she said, I had no idea, like I would never have even thought that it would have anything to do with hair dye. Well, hair dye has not only like a ton of toxic dyes are made from petroleum, but it also has a lot of heavy metals. And so heavy metals and toxic petroleum aren't good and they can wreak havoc on our bodies. So that was just an interesting thing that came up when I do intuitive health reading. So like I said, that's a little bit different than how I do cards. So when I do cards, I just pull three. I pull one for mind, or one for body, one for mind, and one for spirit. So this first one that I'm going to pull is going to be for the body. So this is confusion, cilantro. I tend not to necessarily pay too much attention to the food that's coming up unless it's really, really relevant. For me, cilantro is tied to confusion in that cilantro is really good at helping get the heavy metals out, and heavy metals create confusion. So I read this in relation to the body as confusion in the body based on metals. So literally what we were just talking about, the hair dye, getting the metals into your body, and then creating confusion in your mind. Metals wreak a lot of havoc in your mind. They can cause all sorts of things, but ADHD and and all the things that create confusion in our lives on a daily basis for, everyday people who don't have a specific disease or, issue they're dealing with, something like that. Okay, so that's for body. And the second one is going to be for mind. Oh, I love this one, soursop. I've actually never had soursop before, and I'm not even sure if that's how you pronounce it, but I like it because it's the miracles card. So this is being able to create miracles with your mind alone. So basically, you can create anything you want if you have the right mindset about it. If you are able to see things as happening for you and not creating havoc. My mentor talks about the universe not being a punisher, right? Like the universe is not punishing you. When bad things happen, it's because of the way the energy is flowing in and out, in and out. And sometimes we have a really good outlook on life and sometimes we don't. And it can depend on the health of our body, especially when you have confusion and heavy metals. You can actually create a lot of negative emotions and negative thoughts in your mind, just literally from having too much heavy metals in your brain. But miracles, we're gonna create miracles in the mind by changing our body. Oh, this is something that I teach a lot that I want to mention here because it's relevant. So basically, the body is the gateway to the mind. So when I started, part of the reason that I think I was able to unlock the Kundalini energy was because I spent so much time cleaning up my body. When I had severe food allergies and I was going into anaphylactic shock because I was eating random foods, I cleaned up my diet completely and I started eating mainly fruits and vegetables. I had some rice and chicken in there, but it was mainly fruits and vegetables. I cleaned up my body, and then I was actually able to connect with my inner being on a much more frequent, strong basis. So when I was talking about eating chocolate or how eating chocolate makes your energy not as strong and it makes it harder for you to read, it's very similar to if you're eating like a standard American diet and your body's clogged up with a bunch of fat and oils and random processed foods that are like not really foods. That will do the same thing. It'll have the exact same effect. It'll be really hard to read the energy. It'll be really hard to just feel the energy coming into your body. And some people can't actually connect. And if you're listening to me talk and you're like, yeah, well, when I say my name is such and such, nothing happens, my body doesn't move. It could be because you need to move the stuff out of the way inside your body first before you can get to that. So the body is the gateway to the mind. You have to clean up the body before you can get to the mind and the spirit, before you can really start having clarity in your mind, before you can really start thinking happy thoughts just because, like not even having to force yourself to change a negative thought to a positive thought. When you clean up your body, you'll automatically start thinking positive thoughts. Like it'll just happen that way. And then you'll also have a much better connection to your spirit. You'll actually be feeling the energy moving. You'll get answers a lot faster when you try and connect. It's a process, body, mind, spirit. So miracles will happen when you clean up the body and the confusion. This last one is for spirit. This is power. Almonds. I don't really connect almonds with power, so that's interesting. So normally I wouldn't connect that with spirit for me anyway. But the power of spirit is clear in what I'm saying. Um, all of the things that I just talked about, the way I use them in my life is, let me just give you a simple example. I want to make $200 today. Let's just say that's what I want. I have a desire to make $200 today. And if I really, really want it, I'm going to feel it in my body. And I'm going to feel it somewhere in my body, in a particular place. Because what comes up in my body, either the motion or the feeling in my body, is what's standing in my way. Unless I'm feeling elation and like, oh yeah, it's totally happening. If I feel that, then I might not need to do anything and it might just totally be happening, right? But if I say, I want to make $200 today, and my mind says, yeah, right, you're not going to make $200 today. Or my body tightens up and I'm like, oh, but how am I going to do that? But how? That's when you know you've got a block. So this is the power of being able to connect to your energy and get answers for yourself every day, is that you literally can feel where the block is in your body, and then you can do energy clearing. You can pull energy out of your body. You can clear your chakras. You can do all these things to move that out of your way. And then you can say it again and then feel how it feels in your body. Is there a new block? Is there a new emotion? Is there a new thought? What else is happening? And then you can do that again. And you just keep clearing until it's out of your way. And then the money can come in freely. And then you can be open and free and powerful. This is the beauty of the power of being able to connect with your higher self, being able to use the tools that we were given. Every human being on the planet was given the ability to connect with their inner being. Some people are blocking it with their food. Some people are blocking it with their mind, which is being blocked by their body due to toxins, food, alcohol, cigarettes, you name it. You name it. If it's in the body and it's not good for the body, it's probably blocking your connection. So again, I'm just gonna hold up these cards one last time. Body, confusion in the body, in the mind. When you get rid of that, you can create miracles. And then your spirit will bring you all the power you need to do whatever it is you need to do in life, because you can literally go through any desire that you want and figure out how to get it just by moving the things out of the way. So that's it for my reading tonight. Hopefully someone will hop on here on the replay and get to watch it and get to benefit from it. Yeah, so that's all I have for you this evening. If you feel like you need a guide on your healing journey, there's two ways I can help you. One, I can do a 60-minute intuitive health reading, like I talked about, where I will connect to your energy and I will go in and find the blocks for you and help you clear them out. Because it is easier for me to do it for you than it is for you to do it for yourself, especially if you're not experienced at it. But I would love for you to try all the things that I just talked about, because I think it's a really great thing for everyone to know how to do, not just the psychics out there, right? Like, I think everyone should be able to do this for themselves, and you can. And then the other way I can help is I can just do one-on-one coaching. So for people who are experiencing things like chronic fatigue, neurological fatigue, anything autoimmune, I have a 5-step process that I take people through. And it's basically, clearing out your environmental toxins, adding in the healing foods, removing the troublemaker foods, eggs, gluten, dairy, those kinds of things, and then adding in clean supplements and then cleansing your body. So 5 steps. I know it sounds easy, but it's difficult. I get it. So if you want help with that, I do one-on-one coaching and I can help you with that. The last thing I'll say is just please subscribe to my YouTube channel and share this video with others who you think might benefit from it. And I also have an Instagram account. It's at Gaia's_medicine if you want to follow me there. And that's basically it. So have a fabulous evening and remember that you are safe, you're loved, and you matter. Okay. Thank you all so much.